Peacemaker Season 2 was written by James Gunn, and it had its season finale last week, and I'm here to talk about my thoughts on this season as a whole, and what did I think of the finale. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. Okay, so recap my thoughts on Season 1. I really enjoyed Season 1. I thought it was really funny. I thought it had really good character depth. I thought the action was really cool. And I think it's John Cena's best performance yet. I love John Cena as his character, and so I was very much excited to see Season 2 of this show. And I would say, for the most part, it did not disappoint. I really greatly enjoyed this season. Okay, so in this season, a Peacemaker discovers this alternate dimension where his father and his brother are still alive. And it's basically about him coping with that, as well as him deciding what he wants to be. So, a big warning right off the bat. This is going to contain full spoilers for the whole season. If you don't want to know anything at all, you might want to go and watch this season. I highly recommend it. It's not perfect. We'll get to that in a minute. But for the most part, I was very happy with this season. And let's get into why. Something that I really enjoyed that the season does is that it really takes its time to develop these characters. There's a lot of scenes in this show where there's not really like a whole bunch of action scenes happening. It's just really the characters just talking, and it is riveting. It is very riveting dialogue, and it's some of the best dialogue that James Gunn has ever written. Especially with the romance between Hardcore and Peacemaker. That relationship in this season I thought was great, and I thought John Cena was even better than he was in Season 1. And Jennifer Holland is amazing in this season. And I liked her in Season 1, but in Season 2 she really gets some time to shine, and she becomes one of the big highlights of this season. Frank Grillo is amazing as Rick Flag Sr., and the progression of his character throughout this season I found very compelling, and especially seeing how his goal throughout this season is to get Peacemaker. Which makes sense, because Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad killed his son. And so, yeah, like him wanting revenge, perfect, you know, and I thought Frank Grillo really did great in this season. But also, the writing for his character I thought was great too. Daniel Brooks was one of my favorite parts of Season 1, and she's really giving time to shine in this season too. There's a great scene between her and Peacemaker. I think it's in episode 4. That was like some of James Gunn's best writing right there. Like, that was a beautiful scene. Okay, so in general, the good stuff in this season I think is some of James Gunn's best writing. There is stuff in here that I think is absolutely brilliant, and it's like top tier James Gunn writing. Something that's both really funny and really emotional. So something that I find cool is that the director of Superbad directed 2 episodes, and those 2 were some of my favorite episodes of the whole show. And the James Gunn directed episodes, for the most part, were also really good. And so you can tell with this show, James Gunn is like looking for very talented directors to come in and direct really good episodes of Peacemaker. And I find that really cool. Okay, so some of my favorite stuff in this season is in Earth X, where he's interacting with his brother and father. Those scenes were absolutely incredible. They were very well done. They were beautifully acted and written and directed. And like seeing Chris thinking that this is like the best alternate dimension ever, that this is where he belongs, and then in episode 7 you kind of start to see the cracks, and you're kind of like, oh, maybe this isn't so perfect, and seeing like how he adapts to that is really compelling. Also, the action in this season, even though there's not like a ton, is really, really good. It's very creative. It's a lot of fun. There is a great scene with Eagly where he's taking out these government agents. That scene was awesome. That was like one of the funniest parts of the whole show. Michael Rooker plays this eagle hunter, and he was awesome. I wish he was in it a little bit more. He's only in it, I think, for like 2 or 3 episodes, and I would have liked a little more of this character, but the time that you do get with this character, I thought he was awesome. And like Eagly being the prime eagle, I thought that was great. Okay, so one cameo that I saw that just made me freak out was Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. That was perfect. In the story, it made perfect sense. Nicholas Hoult was great, and I loved the conversation between him and Rick Flex Sr. I thought that was really well written and beautifully acted. And the idea of like Lex Luthor's people working with Rick Flagg's people in Argus, I thought was very, very, very interesting. And I mean, just seeing their camaraderie with each other was great in this season. And that's about it in terms of like the big cameos. And granted, you do get a little cameo from the Justice Gang in episode 1, but that's really about it. Well, and their scene was really, really funny, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so let's talk about some things in this season that left me a little disappointed. Nothing in this season I thought was terrible. But there are a few things that hold it back for me from being a perfect season. So, without further ado, let's talk about the finale. Okay, so I've seen a lot of various reactions to the finale. Some people love this finale, some people hate this finale. I'm kind of somewhere in between. I think there is great writing in episode 8. I think that them going to the alternate dimensions I thought was cool. I thought that like everything wrapped up pretty nicely. However, I will say, I feel like episode 7 was the real finale. Because, like, episode 7, I thought was one of the best episodes in all of Peacemaker. I thought that episode was beautifully done. It was really well written. It was beautifully directed. It was wonderfully acted. It was, like top tier James Gunn. But, the next episode, it kind of felt like one big credit scene. But that being said, it felt like a good credit scene. It was still a good episode. It still had really good writing, and I like the idea of like Team Peacemaker being checkmate. I thought that was cool. And in general, there's a lot about the last episode that I like. And I even like Peacemaker being sent to salvation. I thought that was really a really cool ending. But I do think that this episode did feel a little wonky in terms of pacing. There was some stuff that they focused on, that I'm like, did you really need to focus on that? And as a season, my biggest problem with this season is that it did feel a little rushed. There's some stuff in this season that I think they kind of rushed by when really they should have focused on a little bit more. Like, for example, like the multiverse stuff. I would have liked more time dedicated to them exploring the different multiverses. Well, but it's really in the last episode, and I kind of would have liked it more if, more of this season was dedicated to exploring these different dimensions. So some of the jokes in this show were not that funny to me. Most of them were, but some of them I think got a little much. Vigilante, I thought for the most part he was funny, but sometimes, sometimes the scene with him, would go, and I would be kind of like, okay, trim this a little bit, But again, it was nothing too distracting. Also, I think Season 2 lacked a really big threat. In Season 1, they had a big threat with the butterflies. Season 2, they kind of don't. Well, I mean, granted, like, Rick Flag Sr. is a threat, but for the most part, there's not really any big threat in this season, you know, and I think that would have helped it feel a little bit bigger, and more, like, would have had more of an impact. But that being said, this is still a very, 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 very good show. I still really, really enjoyed this season a great deal. I thought that the good stuff is some of James Gunn's best writing. And the bad stuff is not awful, it's just kind of underwhelming. So as a season, I do prefer Season 1, just because I feel like Season 1 took its time a bit more. And also, I feel like Season 1 had a bigger threat. But still, the fact that Peacemaker Season 2 is still good is really impressive to me, especially considering that James Gunn was writing this alongside Creature Commandos and Superman. That is impressive. So overall, this is not like James Gunn's best. But I did like this more than Creature Commandos. And I think the good stuff does have some of James Gunn's best writing. It's just that if this season just took its time a little bit more and had a better ending, I think I would have loved this season. But as is, this is still a really, really good season, and I would still highly recommend it. I'm going to give it a B+. It is almost an A-, but the finale and some of the pacing issues did kind of hold it back for me. But still, I will watch anything that James Gunn does, and I'm still really, really excited for the DCU. So now that we got the James Gunn DC projects, kind of established, I feel like it's time to see what other writers and directors can do in this DC universe. And and let me tell you, I am still incredibly excited for this DC universe. I cannot wait for Lanterns. I cannot wait for Supergirl, Clayface, and Man of Tomorrow. And in my opinion, the DCU is in very, very good hands. Okay, so thank you guys so much as always for watching. Look out for even more videos coming out very, very soon, especially on the Halloween special. And have a great day, and I will see you later. Take care.